The ancient watchers, the silent observers in the deepest regions of space, where stars burn cold and ancient, the Zethani maintained their eternal watch. Their crystalline cities floated between dimensions, hidden from younger species who still believed space held only 3 dimensions. For 100 million years, they had observed the galaxy's endless cycles. Civilizations rose like morning suns, blazed with brief glory, then faded into cosmic dust. Elder Vexthala moved through the observation chamber with movements that seemed to bend reality itself. Her crystalline form caught light from distant stars, reflecting it in patterns that told stories older than most solar systems. Around her, thousands of monitoring devices tracked every inhabited world in the galaxy. Each screen showed different species going about their daily existence. Unaware that ancient eyes watched their every development, the Zethani had seen it all before. The proud warrior racers who conquered half the galaxy before destroying themselves in endless wars. The peaceful builders who created wonders beyond imagination, only to grow stagnant and fade away. The machine civilizations that replaced their creators, then lost purpose when they achieved perfection. Every pattern repeated endlessly, like waves on an infinite shore. Another species has achieved faster than light travel, reported observer Kyle Manos, his voice resonating through crystalline communication networks. The beings from the 3rd planet of System Sol 1, Vexthala, barely glanced at the new data. Standard development pattern 7 Alpha. They will spread to nearby systems, establish colonies, then either destroy themselves in resource wars or stagnate into peaceful decline. Estimated civilization lifespan 12 to 15,000 years. She had made this prediction countless times. The mathematics of civilization were as predictable as stellar formation. Young species always followed the same paths, made the same mistakes, met the same ends. The Zethani had catalogued every possible variation over their eons of observation, but something unusual caught her attention 3 months later. The first anomaly, Elder Vexthala, Kyle Manos called with unusual urgency. The Sol 3 beings have done something unexpected. The main display showed a human spacecraft approaching a dying world in the Kepler system. The planet Zephoria had been abandoned for centuries after a viral plague wiped out 90% of its population. The remaining Zepharians lived in sealed cities, slowly dying as their technology failed and their numbers dwindled. Standard first contact protocol, Vexthala observed. They will offer basic assistance, establish trade relations. Then she stopped speaking as the humans did something no species had ever done in similar circumstances. Instead of maintaining safe distance and offering limited help, they landed directly on the infected world without protective equipment. Dr. Sarah Chen stepped off the human ship wearing only a basic environmental suit. Her team of 12 specialists spread out across the dying Zephyrian capital, taking samples and studying the plague that had baffled the galaxy's best scientists for 3 centuries. The Galactic Medical Council had declared the Zephyrian virus incurable. Advanced civilizations had sent their greatest minds to study it, only to confirm that the genetic damage was irreversible. Fascinating, Dr. Chen said, as she examined viral samples under a simple microscope. The virus doesn't just attack cells. It rewrites genetic code in a pattern that looks almost intentional. Within 48 hours, her team had identified something that had escaped detection by scientists with technology thousands of years more advanced. The plague wasn't natural. It was an ancient bioweapon designed by a long-dead species to prevent the Zephyrians from expanding beyond their home system. If we can map the original genetic template, Dr. Chen explained to her team, we should be able to create a reversal sequence. The Zathoni monitoring station recorded every moment with growing disbelief. Advanced civilizations had spent centuries trying to cure the Zephyrians. The most sophisticated medical technology in the galaxy had failed. Yet these primitive humans, with their simple tools and basic understanding of genetics, claimed they could reverse 300 years of genetic damage. Impossible, Elder Vextella whispered, but she could not look away from the screens. Working 18-hour days, the human medical team synthesized a cure using equipment they had brought on their small ship. When they tested it on volunteer Zephyrians, the results defied everything the Zathani thought they knew about biological science. Not only did the treatment stop the plague, it began reversing generations of genetic damage. Within 2 weeks, Zephyrian children were being born, healthy for the first time in centuries. The dying cities came alive with celebration as their species found hope again. The pattern breaks what disturbed the Zathani most was not just the human success, but how they achieved it. Every other species approached problems with rigid methodology, following established scientific principles that had been proven over millennia. Humans seemed to ignore established rules and create entirely new approaches. They think sideways, observer Kyle Manos reported, struggling to find words for what he had witnessed. Where we see barriers, they see puzzles to solve in unexpected ways. Elder Vextella pulled up files from the vast Zathani archives. Records stretching back 100 million years showed the same patterns repeating endlessly. Species developed along predictable lines, facing the same challenges, making the same discoveries, meeting the same fates. The Zathani had seen every possible variation of civilization's rise and fall, except for this. "Show me their homeworld," she commanded. The display shifted to Earth, a blue-green planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star. Nothing about the world suggested it should produce anything unusual. Standard gravity, normal atmospheric composition, typical geological development. Yet somehow, this unremarkable world had created beings who solved ancient problems with casual ease. Dr. Sarah Chun's voice came through the monitoring systems as she spoke with Zephyrian leaders. "We're happy to help establish medical facilities and train your people in genetic therapy techniques. But more importantly, we'd like to learn about your culture and history. Every species has unique perspectives that can teach us something new." This statement sent shockwaves through the Zathani observation chamber. In 100 million years of watching civilizations develop, they had never heard a species express genuine curiosity about others during first contact. Most species either sought to dominate, exploit, or maintain careful distance from aliens they encountered. Humans wanted to learn from everyone they met. Ancient prophecies remembered that night. Elder Vextella descended into the deepest archives of Zathani knowledge. In chambers that had not been opened for 50 million years, she searched through prophecies carved in crystalline memory matrices by her ancestors. Most were records of their observations, catalogues of species that had risen and fallen over the eons. But some texts were different. Ancient predictions made when the universe was young, speaking of events that seemed too incredible to believe. When the galaxy grows old and patterns repeat endlessly, read one prophecy: there shall emerge a species unlike all others. They will see paths where others see only walls. They will find solutions where others find only endings. They will unite what cannot be united and heal what cannot be healed. Another passage, even older, spoke of the catalyst people who would transform everything they touch, not through force, but through understanding. Where they walk, evolution follows. What they influence changes forever. Vextherla had dismissed these prophecies as the fantasies of younger Zethani, who still believed in impossible things. Now, watching humans casually solve problems that had stumped advanced civilizations, she felt the first emotion she had experienced in a million years: fear. If the prophecies were true, then humanity represented something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that could change the fundamental patterns of existence itself. The Council convenes within days of the Zephyrian cure. Emergency signals flashed across hidden Zethani networks. For the first time in 10 million years, the High Council of Observers convened in person rather than through distant communication. 7 elders gathered in the Great Chamber, their crystalline forms creating a circle of ancient wisdom. Each had observed the galaxy for tens of millions of years. Each had seen every possible variation of civilization's development. Each was deeply disturbed by what they had witnessed. "The humans have broken the pattern," Elder Zexvala announced, her voice carrying harmonics that spoke of deep concern. "In 300 years of observation, they have violated every predictable model of species development." Elder Morthic activated holographic displays showing human activities across their expanding territory. They do not conquer, they cooperate. They do not exploit resources, they share knowledge. They do not fear the unknown, they embrace it. With curiosity, worse, added Elder Kixandra, they make others better. Every species that encounters humans begins developing faster, becoming more creative, finding solutions to problems they had accepted as unsolvable. The evidence was overwhelming. Human influence was spreading like ripples across the galaxy, transforming ancient patterns that had remained unchanged for millions of years. Stagnant civilizations began exploring again. War-torn species found peace. Dying cultures discovered new purpose. "They are the catalyst," Elder Vextella said quietly. The prophecies spoke of a species that would reshape the galaxy not through conquest, but through inspiration. "We are witnessing the beginning of something unprecedented." The council fell, silent as they contemplated the implications. For 100 million years, the Zethani had been the galaxy's secret guardians, maintaining order through careful observation and subtle influence. They had prevented younger species from making mistakes that would destabilize the cosmic balance. But humans threatened to change everything. Their very existence challenged the ancient order that had kept the galaxy stable for eons. "What do we do?" asked Elder Morthic. Elder Vexthala looked out at the stars where human ships were already spreading, carrying their dangerous gift of transformation to every world they encountered. "We watch," she said finally. "We learn and we prepare. For the end of the age we have known for 100 million years. The catalyst awakens the dying world of Ethrisix months after the Zephyrian miracle. Human exploration vessel Harmony's Dream detected a distress signal from the distant Ethris system. Captain Maria Santos ordered her ship to investigate, unaware that Zethani observers were tracking every human movement with growing anxiety. Ethros Prime had once been home to the Etherians, a sophisticated species known throughout the galaxy for their mastery of energy manipulation. Their cities had been powered by controlled stellar fragments, their technology capable of reshaping matter at the molecular level. But something had gone terribly wrong. As Harmony's Dream approached the planet, the crew saw a world in its death throes. The great energy cities flickered weakly, their power sources dying one by one. Massive structures that had stood for millennia were crumbling into dust. The few life signs detected showed a population reduced to less than 1% of its former size. "My God," whispered Chief Science Officer Dr. James Park as he studied the sensor readings. "Their entire energy grid is collapsing. It's like their power sources are aging centuries in minutes." Captain Santos opened communication channels. The response came in the form of weak, translated signals from the planetary surface. The remaining Ithrians explained their catastrophe in voices filled with despair. 3 years ago, they had attempted to create a new type of clean energy by manipulating quantum vacuum fluctuations. The experiment had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams, producing unlimited power from the fabric of space itself. But something unexpected had happened. The quantum field they had tapped began consuming their existing energy sources, spreading like a virus through every power system on the planet. "We have consulted with the greatest minds in the galaxy," the Ithrian spokesperson explained. "The Vorthaki sent their wisest scientists. The crystalline collective shared their knowledge of energy manipulation. All confirmed that the process is irreversible. Our civilization will die within months as our final power sources are consumed." Dr. Park studied the data with furrowed brows. "This quantum cascade effect, it's unlike anything in our databases. The energy is literally eating itself, creating a feedback loop that accelerates the consumption. Most species would have offered sympathy and perhaps basic humanitarian aid. The Galactic Council had already written off Ethros as a lost cause, preparing to evacuate survivors to refugee worlds. But Captain Santos made a different choice. "Dr. Park, assemble your team. We're going down there." Thinking the impossible, the human landing party consisted of only 8 specialists, carrying equipment that seemed laughably primitive compared to the failed technology of advanced civilizations. Dr. Park brought basic quantum field detectors. Engineer Lisa Rodriguez carried simple tools for manipulating electromagnetic fields. Physicist Dr. Chen Wei arrived with nothing more sophisticated than a quantum calculator and some theoretical equations he had been working on during the voyage. The Ethrian survivors watched with polite hopelessness as the humans began their investigation. These beings had barely mastered faster-than-light travel. How could they solve a problem that had defeated the galaxy's most advanced species? "The energy cascade is definitely following quantum tunneling principles," Dr. Park reported after studying the dying power grid. "But there's something strange about the pattern. It's not random consumption. There's an underlying structure." Dr. Chenwei set up his calculations in what had once been Ethros Prime's greatest energy laboratory. Surrounded by technology he barely understood, he worked with equations that existed only in theoretical physics textbooks. The Ithrians watched with growing amazement as he treated their impossible crisis as a fascinating puzzle rather than an insurmountable disaster. "What if we're thinking about this backwards?" Dr. Chen announced after working for 12 straight hours. "Everyone has been trying to stop the cascade. But what if the cascade itself is the solution?" The lead Ethrian scientist, Kethma, looked confused. "I do not understand. The cascade is consuming our energy. How can destruction be a solution?" "Doctor," Chen smiled with the enthusiasm humans showed when discovering something new. "Because your quantum vacuum tap created more than just energy consumption. It created a new type of stable quantum field. Instead of fighting the cascade, what if we redirect it?" Engineer Rodriguez began sketching modifications to the Ethrian power grid using simple electromagnetic principles. "If we create resonance chambers at specific points in the cascade pattern, we could turn the consumption field into a distribution network. The concept was so simple that advanced civilizations had overlooked it completely. Instead of stopping the quantum cascade, they would transform it into the galaxy's first, truly unlimited energy source. The solution that changed everything, working with salvaged parts from their ship and basic materials found in Etherian ruins. The human team spent 5 days building what they called a quantum resonance distributor. The device looked like a crude metal framework compared to the sophisticated technology surrounding it. "This cannot work," Kethma protested as they prepared to activate the device. "Our greatest energy scientists have confirmed the impossibility of controlling quantum cascade effects." Dr. Chenwei checked his calculations one final time. "Sometimes the impossible just means we haven't found the right approach yet." When they activated the resonance distributor, something miraculous happened. The consuming quantum field began to stabilize, its destructive energy transforming into a controlled distribution network. Instead of eating existing power sources, it began generating unlimited clean energy directly from quantum vacuum fluctuations. Within hours, the dying cities of Ethros began to glow with renewed life. Power flowed through systems that had been dark for months. The cascading destruction reversed itself, becoming cascading restoration. "How?" Kethma whispered as his world came back to life around him. "How did you see what our greatest minds could not?" Captain Santos watched her crew work with quiet pride. "We don't have the greatest minds in the galaxy, but sometimes that's an advantage. We don't know what's supposed to be impossible." The Watchers react in the hidden dimensions where Zethani observers maintained their eternal vigil. Emergency signals flashed through crystalline networks. What they had witnessed on Ethros violated every principle of advanced physics. Elder Vexthela called another unprecedented emergency session of the High Council. The 7 ancient beings gathered with expressions of growing alarm etched in their crystalline features. They solved quantum cascade theory, Elder Vexthela announced, her voice carrying harmonics of disbelief. "A problem that our greatest scientists declared mathematically impossible to resolve. In 5 days," added Elder Morthic, using primitive tools and basic electromagnetic theory. Elder Kixandra activated displays showing the restored ether energy grid. They didn't just solve the problem, they transformed it into an advancement. The Etherians now possess unlimited clean energy that could power 1,000 worlds. The implications terrified the ancient observers. Humans weren't just solving impossible problems. They were turning disasters into breakthroughs, transforming failures into unprecedented successes. "The prophecies," Elder Vexthela whispered. "The catalyst people who transform everything they touch. We are witnessing the fulfillment of predictions made when the universe was young." She activated the most ancient archives, displaying prophecies that spoke of beings who would see beyond the boundaries of what is known and turn endings into beginnings. Every prediction seemed to describe human behavior with terrifying accuracy. "There is more," Elder Vexthela announced grimly. She displayed communication intercepts from across the galaxy. Word of human achievements is spreading. Species that have been stagnant for millions of years are beginning to experiment again. Ancient enemies are cooperating to study human methods. The galaxy is ... changing. The change was undeniable. Wherever humans traveled, they left behind species that were suddenly more creative, more cooperative, more willing to attempt the impossible. The rigid patterns that had governed galactic civilization for eons were breaking down. The ancient Fire Elder Vexthela accessed her deepest memories. files that stretched back to the Zathani's earliest days of awareness. Her people had once been explorers and innovators, pushing the boundaries of knowledge and possibility. But time and experience had taught them the dangers of change. They had seen civilizations destroy themselves through reckless experimentation. They had witnessed species that changed too quickly, evolving beyond recognition or destroying their homeworlds through uncontrolled advancement. Over 100 million years, the Zathani had learned that stability was survival, that predictable patterns prevented cosmic disasters. Humans represented chaos. Beautiful, creative, inspiring chaos that could unravel everything the Zathani had spent eons protecting. "We must make a decision," Elder Morthic said quietly. "Do we guide them? Do we contain them? Or do we eliminate them before they destabilize the entire galaxy?" The question hung in the crystalline chamber like a death sentence. For the first time in their species' history, the Zathani contemplated direct intervention in galactic affairs. "They are not evil," Elder Kixandra observed. "Everything we have witnessed shows them to be cooperative, curious, and genuinely helpful to other species. That makes them more dangerous," Elder Zexvela replied. "Evil can be contained or defeated, but inspiration, hope, the belief that anything is possible, these things spread like viruses, transforming everything they touch." Elder Vextella stood, slowly, her ancient form casting light patterns that spoke of terrible responsibility. "There is another possibility we have not considered." The council waited as she gathered her thoughts. "What if the prophecies are not warnings?" she asked. "What if they are inevitabilities? What if humanity's emergence was always meant to happen at this precise moment in galactic history?" The idea sent shockwaves through the assembled elders. If humans were a natural part of cosmic evolution, then opposing them would be fighting against the universe itself. "The galaxy has grown stagnant," Elder Vextela continued. "For 50 million years, we have seen the same patterns repeat endlessly. Perhaps it is time for those patterns to change." But even as she spoke the words, she felt the fear that had haunted her people for eons. Change meant uncertainty. Uncertainty meant risk. And risk meant the possibility that everything they had protected for 100 million years could be lost. As the council debated humanity's fate, human ships continued their expansion across the galaxy. With each world they visited, each species they encountered, the transformation spread. Ancient problems found unexpected solutions. Dying civilizations discovered new hope. The impossible became merely improbable, then routine, then expected. The age of predictable patterns was ending. The age of human-inspired chaos was about to begin. And in the hidden depths of space, the galaxy's oldest species watched with growing dread as their carefully maintained order began its inevitable transformation. The question was no longer whether humanity would change the galaxy. The question was whether the galaxy would survive the change. Asterisk.